Flamingos wouldn't look very good at Minnesota. They might look really good against a white paper birch tree, but they wouldn't look very good next to a evergreen tree because those colors kind of clash. They look way better in the Caribbean. The turquoise water looks super good with that light pink. So I think God had a plan. I really do. I think he totally had a plan. He colored the flamingo in the right color palette where they live. Totally makes sense.
I take out a canvas board that I've already placed acrylic paint on and then place saran wrap on top of that, arranged in a pattern, allowed it to dry for 3 days, and pulled it off. Then I placed some texture paste onto the saran wrap texture with some stencils, allow that to dry. I place my Distress Oxide inks and rub that on the texture throughout the piece, spritz some water, and use my finger to move the ink around. I pull out some Martha Stewart Crafts stencils with some flamingos. I pull out some textured ribbon and some twine, thinking I might want to use that as well. I love these flamingos. I think they're so cute. I take out my hot pink, I fill in the stencil with a stencil brush, making sure that the brush goes up and down to not get under the stencil. The stencils were self-adhesive, so they did stick to the canvas, which does help quite a bit. I take out my basic acrylic paints and I start making the water or the seascape. I spritz it with water to make sure that there's plenty of movement in the paint. I take out my brush just to make sure that the paint is a little thicker, ensuring that there's a crisp edge to the flamingo's legs.
It must be nice to be a flamingo. Really, they're not really pink. They're kind of pinky orange. It really depends on what kind of picture you look at on the internet. I couldn't really find a standard flamingo look, but I like the pink.
I do take out some ivory paint and mix that around, kind of interpreting that as sand and white foam from the waves. I take out some light portrait pink basic paint and I use that as some highlights on the flamingos to make sure that there's some texture and detail called out on the artwork. I'm putting that on the beak and the feathers and making sure that's highlighted.
Stand out, darling.
I've got the stencils to give me a form, and then I can come back and just add details as I like, you know, just adding highlights of where I think light is gonna be and things like that.
Can you imagine being a flamingo? What's another bird that's really cute? I think I like peacocks too, but if you think about it, peacocks got nothing on a flamingo. Flamingos are pink, and there aren't very many things in this world that are pink. So because they're pink or orange or pinky orange or whatever the heck they are, I'd have to say the flamingo wins.
I take out my black and add some detail on the beaks and the eyeballs and outline it just to make sure it stands out a little bit.
I don't even know what a flamingo name would be. Flamingo, I'm gonna name my flamingos. What should their names be? I don't even know how many there are. Is there 4 flamingos? 4 flamingos hanging out in the sun. Should have added a tree in there or something. Is that a family of flamingos? Is it 2 baby flamingos and a mom and dad? Or is that a mom with 2 babies and a dad across the way? Or a dude across the way? I don't even know.
I take out some pink and orange and yellow and I kind of push that into the sky. I was thinking that it was going to be like a sunset.
Hello, flamingo, flamingo, flamingo. I do the dance of the flamingo.
I'm taking out my twine and I take out my Liquitex Gloss Super Heavy Gel Medium. This dries clear and it's very thick. It's very helpful when you're trying to put something sculptural or very textured. I mean, you could use glue too, but glue doesn't necessarily hold the items. Glue is usually more in liquid form, so the heavy gel medium, it helps it stay in place. I could not figure out what I wanted to put on here, so I took my dies and I cut out the Who Gives a Flock. I put those back on my magnetic sheets that I got from Stamp and Storage.
I love Stamp and Storage because they're local. They're from Minnesota.
I'm using the Just a Note die from, I think it's the 6. I'll have to put the link in the description below. I'm arranging the phrase on the piece, but I just can't figure out what I want to do. I know I'm going to be putting a sun in the sky, so I wanted to make it work on the piece. And I decide that Who Gives a Flock is probably a little bit too aggressive to hang on your wall, at least. So I thought, well, I'm going to change it up and I'm going to do Anything Flamingos because that's fun and quirky and I don't know.
Flamingo Big or go home.
So I arranged that 100 million bazillion gazillion times on my canvas because I just couldn't figure out where the heck I wanted to put it, and this was so tedious to move all those tiny itsy bitsy letters without bending them to try and get them into a space that I really liked. But eventually I figured it out. I mean, I just keep going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny almost.
Oh, I like the Energizer Bunny. Remember when they would do all those commercials? He keeps going and going and going, and he has his little drum.
Now I'm gluing down all of the letters. I finally found something that really worked, something I really liked. I'm not using the entire stencil on this, but I am using the sun. I like the sun as it is right now. Like before I started touching it, I loved the sun. But then as soon as I started messing around with that sun, I hate the sun. The sun is ridiculous. I can't even believe nobody stopped me. Like, couldn't anybody see that I was creating a hot mess out of that sun? Because that sun is ridiculous. I had so much extra paint, so I started like pulling the paint off the brush and making highlights on the flamingos, and you can see that the brush barely even works on this thing because there is so much texture on this canvas that I had to like work at just trying to make a straight line. It was so hard. So note to self, stop putting so much dang texture on the piece.
But I love the texture. The texture is so awesome.
I like the texture. But here I go, adding some more paint because I think, oh, more paint will make that look way better.
And it doesn't. It totally doesn't. It just looks like a hot freaking mess. And Wink of Stella doesn't do the job either. There's nothing that Wink of Stella can do to fix the hot mess of a sun.
So I decided to put the Wink of Stella on the Anything Flamingos lettering, hoping that that does the trick to take away from the hot mess of a sun that I created up in the sky. But then I decided I'd take out my Spectrum Noir sparkle pens. I think this is champagne color. I'm not exactly sure, but I will put all the links in the description below if you're ever interested in any of the products that I have here. So I take that pen and I put that on the flamingos, hoping that they glitter and sparkle.
It'd be amazing.
I tried to put some of it near the sun, which is just crazy. And I did. I mean, I put some texture of the glitter yellow sparkle Spectrum Noir pen that I had. And here's some close-ups of the flamingos so you can see some of the texture and the painting. Aw, it's so fun. I mean, the sun isn't, well, yeah, it's that bad. Maybe I should have had like party hats on the flamingos or whatever. You can kind of see the Wink of Stella sparkle on this text that I have, and I really, really enjoy that sparkle. I think it really helps the quote stand out a little bit more. Just when you think I'm finished, I'm never finished. I always have so much more stuff to add onto it, right? I take out my Nouveau Crystal Drops in the gloss ebony black, and I put that on the edges of the beak and the eyeballs, and I make those stand out. And I take out my white Nouveau Crystal Drops, and I put that around the sun, hoping that's gonna make something look better, but it just doesn't. I am like doing the walk of shame for serious right now because that sun is hideous, and mean, the sun is fine. We all make mistakes in art, you know? Like, you might even like the sun. Who knows? Maybe somebody out there likes the sun. I don't know. Here I'm cutting the twine on the edges to make sure that the piece looks complete and finished. I'm going over the piece just to make sure that I haven't missed any spots. I'm thinking, you know what? It just needs to sparkle more. I took out my Wink of Stella pen and went to town putting sparkles all over the place because
Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. Everybody should sparkle.
and so should this sign, because that's the only way it's gonna be like somebody's gonna stand over it and be like, oh.
My eyes, my eyes.
Oh, and I decided to add a little bit more Wink of Stella sparkle pen to the text, and it is super fabulous now. After that, I took out some gloss varnish. With acrylic paint, you really want to add a varnish to make sure that the colors pop. Also, if you're going to be hanging your painting in an area where there's sunlight, that varnish will help the UV rays from fading your paint. So it's really important if you're using any acrylic paint to make sure that you varnish your pieces. Do not overwork that varnish because it can ruin your entire piece of art. So just keep that in mind when you are working with varnish. It's probably a good idea to experiment with it before you put it on a piece that you've been working on for weeks. Just remember, be a flamingo and a flock of pigeons, and everything in your life will work out just fine. Thanks for joining me today. If you want to see other works that I create, consider subscribing because I'd love to have you as a viewer. Until next time, love you guts. Bye.
Oh my gosh. I was like over at my friend's the other day and she was all like,
I'm just so hungry.
she was all like on a diet and she turns to me and she's like,
Don't flock with me. I'm so hungry.
and I was like, honey, thigh gaps, they're for flamingos. Eat a cupcake.